Is Trevor Lawrence a future overall Dynasty QB1? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me is former NFL scout Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, we are talking Jacksonville Jaguars today. We're continuing our buy, sell, hold, trade series, going team by team, and we're about to wrap that up. We just have a handful of teams left. It's been a good chance to dig into every single team in the league and essentially every dynasty relevant player. Matt, I've been busy though, along with these team by team conversations. I've been busy with a little Scott Fishbowl work.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We've talked about this. It is almost SFB time. If you're not familiar, the Scott Fishbowl is a huge charity league that is run every year. It's been the talk of Twitter. If you're on fantasy Twitter, it's hard to miss. But it's been the talk of Twitter now for a couple weeks, and that's only going to ramp up as the drafts begin in just a couple more weeks here early in July. And Matt, I think we have fully turned you over here. You're dynasty only, basically, at this point, right? You're sticking with dynasty, passing on the chance for SFB. And I think we did this last year. We gave away your spot to some of our listeners. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, I say I greatly respect it. It's awesome. I did it, I think 4, 5, 6 years in a row. And I just found myself being so busy with other leagues that as the season went on, I ignored it more than I should have. And I thought somebody else deserves my spot. So, and you're doing a lot of great work with it, right? I mean, you're dialed in.
Yeah. I'm helping out. I'm sending invites, setting up some leagues. We're getting things going. Like I said, it's less than 2 weeks now until the drafts actually take place. One of the changes, this started last year. Several of the leagues and the drafts are held live. So folks get together and do those drafts in different cities, really all over the world. There's a few international drafts happening this year. So that's very cool event. Even if you're not a part of SFB, you can still donate. The money goes to Fantasy Cares. We use that money to buy toys for kids at Christmas and do tons of other things. But, if you're interested in playing in SFB, maybe you want to try to claim Matt's spot, just shoot me a DM on Twitter. We'll see if we can get one or maybe even a couple of you folks listening.
Very cool.
To take Matt's spot since he's going to pass on it this time.
Very cool. And it's for a good cause. So good stuff. And Scott's doing wonderful work. It's good. Very good that you're helping him out. But this Jags team we're going to talk about, I have mixed feelings on. I'm curious what you think about this team. Are they ascending? Have they peaked? I just don't know what to think about these guys.
I really am buying in. We said yesterday with the Colts that we could really make a case to buy almost all the key players on the Colts roster. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel the same way about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mentioned that name at the top, Trevor Lawrence, of course, in many ways the most important name and member of this team. Let's list all the players here, and then I want to ask you a little bit more about Lawrence. Travis Etienne, according to June DLF Dynasty ADP, is the most valuable member of this Jaguars team. He's the running back 8 currently. Calvin Ridley comes in next, wide receiver 27. There's Trevor Lawrence, quarterback 7. Again, this is one quarterback ADP. Mm-hmm. Trevor Lawrence in Superflex is the most valuable member of this team. Christian Kirk, wide receiver 31. Evan Ingram, tight end 11. Tank Bigsby, the rookie, running back 41. Another rookie, overlooked Zay Jones. Zay Jones, wide receiver 67. Here's the other rookie, tight end Brenton Strange, tight end 42. And Dearness Johnson, RB 86. You know, Matt, we sat on this show a little over a year ago and kind of laughed at the Jaguars because they overpaid for Christian Kirk.
Right,
they overpaid for Evan Ingram. They overpaid for Zay Jones. At least that's what it looked like at the time, and that went pretty well for them. All three of those players had career years. Trevor Lawrence looks like one of the top quarterbacks in the league after a rough rookie season. He is the quarterback 7. And this is the question that I ask at the top of the show. Can he ascend higher? Can he reach overall QB1 status in the game? We're talking about, from a dynasty standpoint, overtaking Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar, Hurts. Can he do that?
He can. I mean, I'm not sure I'm willing to predict it. I mean, that is a bold statement, of course. And he is a very agile and twitchy athlete and therefore a very good runner. But I don't know that he can ever approach Allen, Hurts, Fields, Richardson, I mean, in terms of just running. And we know that's not an anchor, but it slows you down to being the top guy. Can he throw Mahomes' numbers of touchdowns to make up for it? Probably not.
Right.
I think he's a great prospect, and he's not even a prospect anymore. But I thought transcendent prospect, LeBron James-like prospect was a little overblown for him. But I am convinced that he raises all ships without a doubt. I mean, he is going to be a high-end NFL quarterback and is maybe already there.
Yeah, it is in some ways tough to see him climbing really much higher than quarterback 7. And maybe we said those same types of things about Jalen Hurts a year ago. He was kind of sitting in this range, and can he go much higher? Of course he did. But Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, and then there's Lawrence at 7. I think you make a good point that it's hard to push him up. Maybe we would say the same thing about Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. It's hard to push them to the very top line when they don't offer that much on the ground as ball carriers. So I don't know if this is not the ceiling for Lawrence, but it's hard to see him jumping all the way up to quarterback 1, honestly, ever in his career.
Maybe quarterback 4, which is great.
Right.
You can win a lot of dynasty games for many years with that, but I don't know that he'll ever be 1.
We kind of had a similar conversation about Anthony Richardson yesterday. Neither of us, as we were talking about the Colts, listed Richardson as a buy, a sell, or a hold. And we didn't list Trevor Lawrence today, although I would certainly be buying if I had the chance. Who is the player you're buying from this Jags roster, Matt?
I'm a big fan of Tank Bigsby. I think he really was not helped by the blocking in college, got a lot of stuff on his own, adequate receiver, fresh legs coming in the league, pretty good draft capital. I'm sure we'll talk some Travis Etienne later in the show, but I don't look at Etienne as an insurmountable guy in terms of short yardage in a lot of situations, to be honest with you. So I like Bigsby, and I think he was undervalued in rookie drafts, and I own him a lot, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I certainly had some doubts about Bigsby, and we talked about some of those as we discussed him prior to the draft. But I love the landing spot. I don't, like you said, I don't think he's not necessarily going to come in and push Travis Etienne out of a job, but I do certainly expect some type of backfield committee there. And at running back 41, I think Bigsby is a nice value in startup drafts. You look at our rookie ADP, and Bigsby's still going in that mid-second round range. Certainly glad to take a shot on him there. 21 overall, and the RB8 is where he is in our latest rookie ADP. I know you've been grabbing shares of Tank Bigsby in that range as well.
Sure.
For my buy, I went with Christian Kirk, and I mentioned that we saw a breakout season from him, the best season of his career this time last year. And you look at where he is in ADP, wide receiver 31. I just feel like we're almost forgetting how good he was. Calvin Ridley, his teammate, who I also like a lot, is ahead of him. with a year off, actually a year plus off for Ridley when you factor in the injury. Ridley is 2 years older. I think I'd rather have Christian Kirk than Calvin Ridley at this point. And Ridley's going higher than Kirk and ADP.
Kirk was my hold because I think he's a high quality player. I think Ridley can be a 1. I don't think Kirk can be a 1. And plus, I think Ingram's a really good receiver. Here's the deal, I guess, is Ridley worries me because he's older than you think. And just watching Deshaun Watson come off such a long layoff, rust seems like it's bound to be there. But I listen to Bucky Brooks's podcast with DJ all the time, and he's super tied in with Jacksonville and just keeps gushing about how Ridley looks and how he's moving. And trust me, I watch every Steelers OTA. OTAs aren't the best way to judge such things. But if this guy is as good as he can be, Kirk almost has to take a back seat to him.
Yeah, that's fair. I certainly think Ridley has more upside. Just kind of spoiling things a little bit. You said you had Kirk listed as your hold. I have Ridley listed as my hold. So we'll talk a little bit more about those two receivers later in the show. We actually agreed on the player we want to sell. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. And we'll do that next.
Guys, baseball season is now in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, all one word, all caps, to join today. There's tons of different bets you can like there. I mean, FanDuel has everything. Of course, Major League Baseball is rolling right now, but you can do future bets. I mean, we talked about Anthony Richardson yesterday as a Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. So there's plenty there to pick from. So don't miss your chance to snag a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
As I said, Matt, we agreed on the player we wanted to sell from this roster. And if you've listened to any of our other team previews or really listened to us at all over the past however many years we've been doing this, it won't surprise you that we both want to sell the running back on this team. Travis Etienne is the guy that we are ready to move off of. He is the RB8 in Dynasty right now. Matt, I want to hear your reasoning, but I've got a few trades I've just got to throw at you. This is using the trade finder from DLF. So this will key you in on exactly what Etienne's trade value is. Travis Etienne straight up for Najee Harris.
That's close. I mean, I don't know that either one would be in my top 8 running backs, and Etienne's RB8 right now.
Several trades on here, packaging a future first rounder with other stuff for Travis Etienne. So we have Travis Etienne for a 2024 first and a third rounder this year. Etienne for a 24 first and the 2.02 this year. Travis Etienne and Isaiah Pacheco for Quentin Johnston and a 2024 first rounder. So what do you think in general about cashing in on Etienne for a first rounder plus?
I don't want the Etienne side on any of those. I particularly liked the Johnston and future first side of all the deals because I don't think Pacheco's worth a ton. Right. Here's the deal on Etienne to me. I mean, I think you love having him on your football team. He's smaller. He's got a little bit of an injury history. But my big problem with him is he's a vastly overrated receiver. You know, like Urban Meyer put him in rookie mini camps at wide receiver, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't do any wide receiver stuff. He's not Percy Harvin. You know, like he catches screens out of the backfield. He's not much of a route runner. And if you're going to be a smaller dude, I need more receiving production. And I didn't want to spoil it in the first segment, but I think Bigsby's going to eat into his carry situation.
Well, Bigsby is not necessarily thought of as a great pass catcher himself. They did bring in Jermichael Hasty, who's a solid pass catcher out of the backfield. I think Bigsby could see more of a pass catching role than even Etienne has seen over these past, really just last year, of course, second year in the league, but missed his rookie season. Again, just looking at the ADP, it just feels a little too high above Josh Jacobs. We already mentioned that name, Najee Harris, Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Stevenson, Javonte Williams. And that's looking only at running backs. If you start bringing in wide receivers or other positions to consider, you get endless options. I'm just not drafting Travis Etienne in the second or third round, which is what his current ADP suggests where he would go and the pick you'd have to spend. So yeah, really just an avoid for me, honestly, in a draft. If I've got him in a league, I'm selling. I feel like I would definitely want more than just that random future first. I'm with you. I like the Quentin Johnston deal. That was a nice one. Getting an early second rounder and that future first would be okay. I saw one more of Kirk for the 1.05 in a super flex league. So now you're talking about maybe getting CJ Stroud, maybe getting, Etienne, not Kirk. Getting Stroud, getting Jahmyr Gibbs, who's actually ranked ahead of Etienne already. So lots of ways to go with Travis Etienne, but yeah, a player I would be looking to cash out on before the season begins.
Two little nuggets is if you're sold that the Jags are going to be a really good team, and I think they certainly will be in their divisional games, is Etienne going to be in the game when they're winning by 10 in the fourth quarter? That's not really his style. He doesn't close out games necessarily. And then a quick question for you, Ryan. Najee or Etienne? That was the first question you threw at me. I'm like, I don't love either. And in a startup, I'd probably end up with neither, but I'm not sure who I like better.
Yeah, I still prefer Etienne there. A little bit younger. Man, this Jaylen Warren talk. I mean, you know better than anybody. Yeah, it seems like it's legit. He was impressive last year as a rookie. So just as we've talked about with Bigsby possibly eating into that starter's role, we could definitely see that in Pittsburgh as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about the players that we're holding. We already spoiled it. It's Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. And I also want to find out what Matt thinks about Evan Ingram. Haven't talked about him yet. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Everydayers, check out tomorrow's show when Kate and Marcus will be back. They'll be talking about the Tennessee Titans and the players to buy, sell, and hold from that roster. We'll see what they have to say about my guy, Will Levis. And there's been some good news lately on Treylon Burks. See what Kate and Marcus have to say about those guys. Matt, for now, let's finish up the conversation on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do want to ask you about Evan Ingram first. He's the tight end 11, had a great season, very productive season for the Jags last year, really essentially the best season of his career, at least the best since his rookie year with the Giants. Do you expect him to keep this up? And do you think the tight end 11 current ADP is a fair one?
I do. I may even have him slightly higher. I'd have to look at the top 10. I do think he keeps it up. I think he's a perfect example of a highly, highly talented tight end that took a little while to get his feet under him. I mean, I can't stress this enough that tight ends hit their stride at age 27. He's 28. He hit his stride at age 27. This is his prime years. It's not time to get out from him. He still moves really, really well. Good offensive mind leading the parade in Jacksonville, as well as the quarterbacks, a tremendous offensive mind. I thought they did a better job than the Giants of getting him yards after the catch. And what I mean by that is, crossing routes where you hit him in stride and he turns it upfield, as opposed to stops and sit down type routes. And so I think he's being utilized a little bit better. He has big playability. Yeah, I'm in on Ingram.
Yeah, I am as well. We haven't talked about these tight end ones lately. No surprise at the top. I don't guess there's much of a surprise, at least. Mark Andrews is back in the tight end one spot. Pitts, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle, and Goddard follow him. But then the back end of that tight end one range is very interesting. You've got Freiermuth, you've got Waller, and then here come the rookies. Tight end 9 is Dalton Kincaid. Sam Laporta is tight end 10. Ingram, as I mentioned, is tight end 11. And then Michael Mayer is tight end 12. So you've got 3 rookies in that tight end 1 range with guys like Greg Dulcich, David Njoku, and Chig Okonkwo coming in behind those. I mean, I like the rookies. I like Kincaid, Laporta, and Michael Mayer. But give me those guys that where we've already seen it. Dulcich and Okonkwo especially. Both guys just 23 years old. So, not much of a age gap between them and the rookies, of course, just being their second year in the league. I'm surprised how these rookie tight ends are being valued right now.
Yeah, that surprises me too. I mean, I would rather have Chig or Dulcich, certainly over Mayer, probably over Laporta. I'm not certain about Kincaid. I think Kincaid fell into a really, really good spot.
Yeah.
But is Kincaid Evan Ingram? The 235-pound receiver only that might take longer than you think. I mean, no one thinks that when these guys get drafted in the first round, but certainly possible. I'm also a Njoku fan,
Well, let me take you back to June of 2017, because that's when these guys that we're talking about, Ingram especially, was a rookie. Evan Ingram was the tight end 1. David Njoku was the tight end 1. And even O.J. Howard was a tight end 1. So we had, three rookie tight end 1s that year and that month as well. And we had to wait on Njoku. We had to wait on Ingram. And we're still waiting on O.J. Howard to really show that he's worth that tight end 6 spot where he was being valued. So the point is, be patient with these guys.
Learn from history a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's move back over to the Ridley and Kirk conversation. Again, I had Christian Kirk listed as my buy. Matt is holding him. Matt was talking about the preference of Calvin Ridley. I've got Ridley as a hold. I still have some high expectations for Calvin Ridley. He is wide receiver 27, and really he was the pretty clear hold on this team for me, because I do still think he has a ton of upside and could grow even from that wide receiver 27 current ADP. But I've got some questions as well. It wasn't just the suspension. He missed most of the previous year with an injury as well. So we're talking about, 18 months.
Major layoff,
or more out away from the football field. So, yeah, I think you talked about Watson and his slow return. I think we have to be a little hesitant about what to expect from Calvin Ridley as he gets back on the field.
So I don't know if you had any of this experience or if it was just my leagues, but I owned him in, 50, 60% of my leagues, and suffered through last year where he just ate up a roster spot. And, that was tough, obviously. But in 2 of my leagues, right around rookie draft time, when things start picking back up, I got monstrous offers for Ridley and just hit accept. There were some people that are like, wow, this guy's going to be, Trevor Lawrence is 1. He's going to be Cooper Kupp and Stafford. I mean, I do think there are some opinions up there, and he is more of a hold or a buy for me, but I was shocked when 2 different offers, 2 different leagues, 2 different owners came and just blew my doors off. And I was like, yep, accept, fine.
Well, he's one player I haven't looked at the trade finder on too much lately. What were the offers that you were getting?
Yeah, I'm trying to
How
think.
Overwhelmed were you?
One of them involved 2 future firsts, and it wasn't straight up for Ridley. I wish I had him in front of me as well, but I do think that there are mixed opinions on him, is my point, that some are very leery. I mean, let me see it first. Some are, I remember what this guy was. If he can be Lawrence's number 1 for the next 3 years, it's going to be a beautiful quarterback receiver relationship. Then that's exactly what Lawrence needed. And I see both sides, but everyone has a price,
Most recent trade on the Trade Finder is Calvin Ridley for Sky Moore and a future second rounder. I want Ridley at that price sure. Let's see if there's any other interesting ones here. Ridley for Rashad Penny, Nico Collins, and a second and third rounder. I want Calvin Ridley there.
Right. I kind of like Nico, but that's a different story. I mean, different tiers. Come on.
Calvin Ridley straight up for Cam Akers. I want Ridley again.
Lloyd, maybe my league's the anomaly because I want if those are the deals, then maybe I'm buying Ridley right now. I mean, I'll give you Cam Akers for him in a heartbeat.
Ridley for Jahan Dotson. That's a 1-for-1 trade. What do you think about that one?
Ridley. Quarterback difference is just so massive to me.
Yeah, huge there. I think I'm going Ridley as well, though. That one's close. I mean, you're talking about
I get it. Yeah.
Pretty big age gap. I heard on another pod today that Calvin Ridley is actually still playing on his rookie contract, which is hard to believe. Yeah, of course, that was because of the suspension and came into the league a little bit older compared to most prospects. So that is, a little crazy to think about.
That is.
Last thing I wanted to go back to something you said about Christian Kirk, that he can't be the one. I don't know. I mean, he was the one last year, right? He had 4 wide receiver games. He had 5 more games as a wide receiver 2 and was the wide receiver 12 in PPR leagues over the full season. I know he's not necessarily your prototypical wide receiver 1 type player as far as frame, and Calvin Ridley certainly fits that mold better. But the way I look at it, they have two ones right now. They have 2 top options, and along with Evan Ingram, and plus, Zay Jones was no slouch last year either. We'll see how all these guys mix in. Ultimately, outside of Travis Etienne, I want all these guys on my roster. I'm buying them all at their current ADP.
Last question for you, and you kind of touched on it. What about Zay? I'm always rough on this player, and he proves me wrong year after year because he is productive and he's not a bad player. I think his stock is hard for me to, get attached to anymore. But I sell him short every time.
Yeah, even last year when he was so good, I believe he was the top 30 wide receiver on the season. Never really got much respect. Didn't gain much dynasty value. Wide receiver 67 right now, 152 overall. I mean, he's being drafted around Alec Pierce, Luke Schoonmaker, Elijah Mitchell, Tyler Algier. That's kind of the range he's going, which is probably fitting. I mean, he's barring injuries, he's the 4th option on this team,
right,
at best, and that's not even factoring in Etienne or any pass catcher out of the backfield. I think he's just fine. I grabbed him on a couple of those underdog drafts where I was able to get Lawrence earlier. Why not in that situation?
Yeah. I mean, could end up in the end zone. And we talked about Pierce yesterday. I would rather have Pierce clearly, and I think they're 66 and 67 overall.
Yes. Yep. I agree. That's going to do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL, and I'm Ryan MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.